Oh. And it will land on a rock.
So do you think crop circles are a result of giant alien Enteropneus worms?
Hey, Jeff, did you hear that?
I did not.
Do you think that the crop circles on land are the result of giant alien Enteropneus worms? And for those of you who are listening on shore, we're just kidding.
It's a joke. The beautiful acorn worm with the mauve head that we saw a few moments ago was what folks on shore were joking about and referring to, because it made kind of a circle on the seafloor.
Now we have the
and it was gorgeous
discussion. Is it mauve or mauve? Tomato.
Hey, Winch, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know it's slow going here, so it's probably going to take more than a half an hour. They're only on bold numbers.
So we're trying to make some way here for waypoint 2.
So, you know, if you got to move, let me know. We'll
Shirley is looking up acorn worms.
I wanted to show Patty a picture.
We're still good right now, but yeah, I'll let you know if I need to move. Thank you.
Okay.
What you're settling down for, pilot?
I think it might just be adjusting headset.
Sean's right.
How would you take a moment to
So you can see a picture of the D2 remotely operated vehicle if you go to the center of the 3 feeds you have on your screen, and we're looking almost directly down on the remotely operated vehicle D2. Another outcropping of these linear sequences of rock. We got one of these, so I'll be letting folks know what it was. As soon as we get it up this afternoon, we'll take a peek. I've got a microscope set up in the lab, so I've been poking at rocks and trying to check out what they're made out of.
White object below.
Oh, this little... Oh, here we go. Ah, I think we have seen this before. Not this very one, but its relatives.
Oh, yeah, so we can see from this one we can see the back of
Is that a squat lobster?
I'm not sure what it is on the right.
It might be something else.
Looks like it's something with legs.
Yep, it has legs. Oh, squat lobster-ish. And this one is not dirty.
As dirty.
However, there is some sediment on its arms.
Okay,
legs.
Get close
Chris.
enough to swim into his tail.
You can tell this one.
I guess it's Munidopsis. I'm defaulting to that for each of these white squat lobsters, typically that's exactly what Munidopsis looks like. They have the short, sort of blunt, heavy-duty claws. They look very armored almost. They're a very stout squat lobster, and they're completely snow white in most cases. So just on a few items or a few characters like that, I'm defaulting to that genus.
And I think we are about to zoom on this. Okay, here we go. Another Rapunzel.
A Rapunzel. Oh, and a
interesting
Xenophile
top of the sponge. You can see the
so you can see the back.
Beautiful.
Yeah, you can see the underside of the cap of that sponge too.
Yeah, it has such lovely structure when we get views on this side.
Yeah, it does look like, at least from Sirius,
we're getting some prop wash.
Yeah,
The
it's
sediment
really muddy.
is
It's really fine,
really
very
fine pelagic sediment. It's amazing, really, how much dust gets blown from China. There is an awful lot of very fine soil in China that was deposited by glaciers from the last ice age that are just ash-sized, tiny fragments that get blown eastward and deposited in the ocean. And when we go out here to core with the ocean drilling program's drilling vessel, we bring back an awful lot of that sort of material. The other thing that gets deposited in the sediment out here, of course, is ash from the active volcanoes when they erupt.
Don't turn west because it just blows the sediment right in front of you.
Yeah.
So
Curve, dodge it, top right.
north is good and east is good, but west
North is very good, pilot. If we were to make our waypoint 2,
We can do that. Just mosey along the bottom. That's fine.
yeah, Nav's been telling us we're making good time to get to our final destination at the top of the mound on this peak of Twin Peaks Seamount, which we
Richard,
are
after we're
diving
done
on
with this,
today.
we could get another ship moving after this.
Okay, what is this we're
Is
getting
that
up to?
Is that a fish? on the
Do you
bottom?
think it's a
I don't know.
it's a yeah,
got a
it's a
fish
something
shape.
Bruce Mundy might be interested in?
Might be. Sure
Looks
does look
like. Yep, long and thin. And as we approach
Okay,
it,
Rolly, we're just going to fly by
it
this
may
one.
have fins, which it does.
Different
Okay,
guy. We
fish
take a look at
people.
his front.
A bathysaurus, says Jeff Drazen.
No.
Okay, well, in that case, go full wide.
Hi guys, this is Jeff. Yeah, this is Bathysaurus. It's a deep sea lizard fish, and
I
if
love
we
it.
have the opportunity to zoom in, we'll see that its fin tips are kind of upturned. It sits and waits in ambush for shrimps
zoom in
and
this?
mysids and other fish to come by. It's a really voracious predator. At the Aloha Deep Sea Observatory, we saw one burst after a shrimp that was about 3/4 of its own size. It didn't catch it.
Wow.
But folks that have looked at the diets of these guys have also found the tips of the tails of rat-tail fish in their stomachs. So they will attack things larger than themselves and actually bite the tail tips off.
Yeah, many
Oh,
wants
my
to pay
goodness.
out a little
Thank
bit
you,
more
Jeff.
and go
That's
in.
amazing.
Getting
That
into
would be-
position there.
Very cool behavior to observe
Stand by.
down here
Copy
in the
that.
deep sea, but it might just be resting.
Based on that last conversation,
Yeah,
shall
we're
I hold off
still
on the
All right,
moment?
it says he wants
Yes,
to
now?
pay out 2
Yeah.
meters or
The
take
witch
up
is
2
gonna pay out.
meters. One way or the other, whatever's better for
This
you.
guy will sit there until the very
Okay, I
last
will
instant
pay
until
Oh,
he
look
feels
at the
threatened
teeth.
or
When you say it's okay to
senses
go.
the mechanical
so you're gonna
disturbance
take
in the
up,
water column
pay
of
in
another
2
organism. But you can
meters,
see in that zoom
Yes,
all
that's
of those
correct.
teeth which are meant to latch
And
on
it's
and
number
not
one.
let go of its prey.
Jeff, it seems to have a huge mouth.
Okay,
Is
now,
that
go ahead.
typical?
All right, I'm starting to pay in 2 meters.
Yeah, very large mouths are common in deep sea fishes because that expands the diversity of prey sizes they can consume. So oftentimes the heads and mouths of deep sea fishes are far larger than you would
you can do
observe
2
on
more.
a
He wants
coral
it.
reef or a shallow water environment where food is much more
Copy
plentiful.
that. 2 more.
Can they open
coming
them
up.
really wide
Go
like
ahead.
snakes do?
Stop.
I'll stop.
Oh, yeah, I didn't catch the question, but at first. No,
All right,
they don't.
co-pilot,
This
you said,
particular
that's it.
species
They're
does not
done
have
now.
a jaw and skull which can very widely hinge like a snake. There are some fishes up in the bathypelagic, the
Okay,
dragon
copy.
fishes,
So we're free to
and
use
their
which
skull
skull?
can actually articulate on the vertebral column.
Okay, we can
Basically,
move on, pilot. If
they can tip their heads
Roger
much
that.
farther back than you or I, and the jaw can swing way down, very much like a snake, and they can consume prey that are as large as themselves. These guys probably don't do that based on what we know, but they'll certainly attack and take pieces of other big animals.
Free use of the winch now, so
Thanks, Jeff.
Tina-
Great
that should
story.
probably come
Tina
down a little
Molodtsova
bit.
from the P.P. Shirshov
Reconfirm
Institute in
pilots.
Moscow says it
Another
looks
move?
like a
Yeah, we're
Chinese
ready.
dragon.
Yeah.
Copy that. Bridge from...
Well, not that I don't like the cusk eels, but it's nice to see a different fish.
True.
Rich,
Well,
could I have the same
Astrid
again, please, which
Leitner
is a
says
range of 40
Bathysaurus
meters,
likely species
bearing
mollis.
due
Yep.
north and a speed of 0.2 knots, please. Good copy, thank you.
So fish or coming near the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
So Tara
Maybe
Harmer
another,
Luke, you've got a lot of
acorn.
images you can use in your deep sea biology class
yeah.
now, talking about different
Okay.
adaptations.
Yeah, Tara was saying that, in fact, you know, the video that's being collected
Do you
here
take
is
tilt
really
and pilot?
important
Right.
because
Oh,
so far
acorn worms.
Copy.
people have only had pictures or drawings of some of these animals.
Tried to fly into it.
We have another acorn worm. This one is partially draped on one of the rocks.
And he's empty.
And I do not see as much sediment in its gut as in the previous worm. Hey, fella, you can't eat rocks.
Wow.
Beautiful picture of
Oh
the
my
animal,
gosh.
though. Look
I'm
at that.
just
You know,
now- I mean, I've never seen
in
any
the
of these
previous
alive.
worm, those flat portions of the animal were spread out on the seafloor. Here, they seem to be cupping around the central part of the animal, like a blanket.
Scott France says, may have just landed here a short time ago.
And does it have something, the little white thing over on the right-hand side? Is that just kind of floating near the
Looks
animal,
like
or is
one of
that
those worms. doesn't it?
attached? There was a
Looks like
there was an amphipod on the previous worm. Just wondered if it's trying to close up.
This is one of the worms.
So yeah,
that
it makes
seems to be
sense that it
attached by a
just
scale.
landed and hasn't done much feeding. Oh. Scott
Okay.
says those flaps are, quote, genital flaps where the gonads are housed. How fascinating. Wow, now we've seen two of these on this dive.
and their tracks many, many times.
Yep.
Do we understand why they create spirals like that?
No. So we had a question about why they create
Yeah,
spirals
Scott,
like
France,
Are the
maybe
spirals opposite,
as you are
depending on-
being,
Northern Hemisphere.
you are no, that's so funny. The pilot said, well, maybe it's because it's in the northern hemisphere and it's making spirals in that particular direction. I think
the
we've
pilot
seen them
ad
in
looking
a couple
straight
of
down at
directions,
you.
but Scott,
If you want to move ahead, that
why
would
do
be
they do
perfect?
circles in the sediment? Scott is being non-committal.
No, he's we're
We are on a
seeing
time
some
delay.
we are actually seeing some amazing biology today.
Scott says, good questions. We see two little spirals
No, we
at the
don't.
bottom of the screen.
Oh, they do go opposite directions.
They do.
And
It
they
has
go
nothing to do
in
with
opposite
northern and
directions.
southern
Yep,
hemisphere
yep,
stuff.
yep,
No.
yep. So maybe
Really
these
interesting,
worms,
very interesting.
some are left-handed, some are right-handed.
Maybe.
The rock-looking structure.
Glad we're answering the important questions.
I'm guessing it may have something to do with the expansion of energy as they're feeding, just to
Oh, what's
kind
that
of
red thing?
makes it
That
easier
look- Is that
to.
a,
Oh, there's a
that's
little
an urchin? I don't know.
little
Reddish.
red critter to
Oh, no,
the
it
upper
might-
left. Yeah, it's
Might be.
got
Might be.
structure. It's not a rock.
No, I think it's an urchin.
Yep, I think you're right, Shirley.
Deb got it. Urchin. Tiny.
Yeah, but
teeny
Deb is
tiny.
not a biologist.
Neither are you.
I know. And she's so good at
Do you
this.
want to take camera pilot?
I think we're just going to...
Yeah, you look good.
Oh, pretty little red urchin.
Oh, lovely.
We're still kind of being dragged by Sirius, so, and the ship's moving, so can't stay here too long.
For when we pull out.
They are on right now.
let's go ahead and pull out.
We'll stripe across before I give you full zoom.
Okay.
Thank you. And I need to push ahead.
Okay, we are pushing ahead. So we are at 4,826 meters on a feature that we call Twin Peaks. So we're on obviously one of the two peaks, more like mounds than peaks.
Yeah, let's just take a quick look at this.
We're going to do a snap zoom over on the right.
Or he's on something.
Okay, roll.
Might be a shrimp, but
Partial.
I'm not sure.
Oh.
Yep.
And as I come in on it, you can zoom a little more. Okay.
Seems to have his claws folded forward like he's ready to grab something.
Whatever floats at him, maybe.
That's a different kind of behavior.
Okay. So full wide.
Yeah, you got to say that. Look at the arms on this shrimp. A lot of shrimp have pinchers on their front arms, but this guy has all of the arms splayed out in a gigantic fan facing into the current to catch small particles. Maybe he's preying upon little zooplankton or things like that, but maybe even smaller particles. It's hard to tell, but it's really, I haven't seen that very often at all.
I think I saw two of his arms actually had very long pincers. At least two of those three arms on each side. But they had airy sensors on them. Look at that proboscis horn.
Oh, beautiful.
He has got lots of sensors.
Well, this is a brand new one for me and Jeff. I don't know if anyone else has seen anything even remotely like this before, but we never have.
Yeah, look at those fine, fine hairs on its pincers, too. Yep, and actually Scott said would then predict the legs to be heavily sea-toast to form a fan. Yep, here we go. Yeah, let's get a little bit closer in.
A little tilt up to see the proboscis.
Yes, I have tilting up, stopped.
Pulling to the near ground.
Yeah, so its legs are really, really feathery. Yeah, and yeah.
Right, and we don't think those pinchers are functional anymore. They've been modified into filtering type of projections.
Even its rostrum
Right, just
is,
a couple more minutes, pilot.
is real feathery as well. That beak.
Yeah, this is a weird one. This is very cool.
Going for, let's tilt down and see if I can show you the sensors on the legs. I can see it on that second to the rear leg, but I don't know if I can show it. Okay, going for full specimen.
Is it possible, you think, to get a side view of that?
Pulling full line.
I can try. I don't have much
Okay.
time here because
Okay, if you don't.
but I'll
Okay,
try.
okay.
Yeah, you might have.
Which way is your dust blowing?
40 seconds, pilot. If you want to do a side
We
view.
headed into the dusty side.
It's just the opposite of when I dusted up.
Yeah, you should be fine like that.
Yeah, it's blowing underneath of you.
I might not have much time. Right? Let's see
That's
what we
okay.
got.
Do what we can.
Sean, sit down.
Tilting down.
Go for it, Roy.
Skidding forward.
Okay.
Max zoom.
Alright, pilot, I am about to lose you in 5 seconds.
Okay, Roy.
Nice.
Make the picture pretty. And I gotta go.
Okay. Thanks.
It was big too.
Yeah, that is a nice size shrimp. Alright, pilot, I'll tilt your camera up a little and give it
Okay.
back. Alright, you have your camera. And I just lost you, pilot.
Okay.
And you're back. I see your boxes.
Heading on up the hill.
Okay, pilots, for info, we are virtually halfway through now, the time on the bottom, and we've covered 1/3 of the distance, but that is more or less related to the fact that we were on the first station for 1 hour. At this rate, we've got plenty of time.
Okay.
Good copy. Thank you, Nav.
So we're about halfway through the dive now. About 1/3 of the way through the track, but we spent a lot of time at the beginning of the dive in a very short or small area.
Sure. You want me to talk on OKEX?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Yeah, hi, this is Jeff, the pilot. Shirley just asked me to describe a little bit about how the system is arranged. Sirius is what we call a camera platform, and it is hanging from a cable off the back of the ship. That cable is 8 kilometers long. And right now there are 4,795 meters of cable hanging off the back of the ship, and Sirius is hanging at the bottom of it. So you'd think, oh, well, Sirius is always right underneath the ship, and that would be true if there weren't any ocean currents, but there are always some currents in the ocean, so Sirius is always attached to the back of the ship, and it's sometimes near the back of the ship, but it can wander 50 meters or more from directly beneath the ship. So anyway, the co-pilot is controlling Sirius, moving it up and down and pointing its camera to always keep D2 in sight. And then the ROV D2 is attached to Sirius by a cable that's about 100 feet long. It's about a 30-meter cable. And this cable is extremely flexible, so it allows the ROV to basically run around anywhere within a 30-meter radius of where Sirius happens to be hanging at the time. So when we want to do a ship move, or we want to move the ROV more than 30 meters, we have to ask the ship to move. The ship starts moving, and at this depth, at a depth of about 5,000 meters, it takes us somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes before Sirius even starts to move. Conversely, if we want to stop and look at something, by the time we've asked the ship to stop, we have to keep in mind that Sirius is going to keep moving for another 10 to 15 minutes. And so for that reason, we try to keep the ROV out in front of Sirius, about 20 to 30 meters out in front, and try to keep the whole train moving along, because it does take a while for the whole thing to stop. One of the ways that we survey the floor, if we have time and we're going slow enough, is kind of like mowing your front lawn. We'll shift off to the left and look along the seafloor, and then we'll move a little bit forward and shift to the right. That's just a big lawnmower pattern. Really depends on how much time we stop. If we stop and look at something, then quite often we just end up chasing Sirius to catch up and look at the next cool thing on the seafloor. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thanks, Jeff. So that gives you an idea when you might hear discussions among the ROV crew, or sometimes you won't hear that side of the discussion, but you'll hear Patty and me say, okay, we understand we have to move on. That's why. So we're excellent explanation of how we try and keep the dive track going, keeping in mind that we've got that we're attached to basically two other things. The Deep Discoverer is attached to Sirius, and Sirius to the Okeanos Explorer.
Richard, I'd say we can get the next ship move going.
Yeah, I have about 70 right now, my cam pilot.
Okay.
So, yeah, by the time the ship
Same
moves.
again?
Sure.
Copy that.
Yeah, sounds great.
That's working good so far. Well.
Bridge, this is Nav.
So far we haven't seen anything, any of the serpentinites that would be indicative of a mud volcano. Seen a lot
Good
of
copy, thank you.
sediment, rocks on the bottom, very interesting biology, some more unusual animals than we've seen
rocks on your
on previous dives.
Yeah, it might be something right there.
Some hard reflections there. They could just be upslope. It just could be these rocks giving us good reflection, because everything else is just mud. Oh, thanks.
That was excellent.
Did I get it right?
I believe you did.
Oh, good. I was just making
Something white. Upper right of lasers.
Yeah, very bright reflection.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Maybe one of those shells, but it's awful long. Up there is left of lasers. I'll put it on the left hand side. Right now, it's a walking crab.
Left of lasers.
Now upper left corner of the screen.
Oh, I got it. Yeah.
And that white thing I saw was
Okay, so up at 12 o'clock. Oh, yes, over to the left. About 10 o'clock. Yep, going into it.
Okay. Yeah, let me just settle down for a second.
He's collecting stuff.
Decorator.
I think he is
Not
prepping
sure.
his decoration.
Okay. All right, partial.
Pilot was asking if it's one of those decorator crabs. Sure does look like it's got something on it. Yeah, sure does. Has an anemone on its carapace.
And come out wide. This sediment is so soft, I get into the sediment, I don't even realize it, and suddenly I'm just stopped.
Yeah. And then just up above that, Pilot is like almost dead center now.
Yeah, the anemone.
Something else. Not sure what it is.
Partial wide. Please hold that. And Sean,
Yes.
thanks.
Tilting down.
Those lasers are 10 centimeters
Pilot,
across.
as I was watching you from the Sirius cam, I saw something white float out of the
pretty.
back of D2.
Beautiful.
I wonder if it was that crab finally made its way
Not
out.
pretty. Beautiful anemone.
Maybe
down.
one piece.
It was one piece.
Oh, good.
Beautiful anemone. Any ideas what this might be
Okay.
besides anemone?
Go back to the crab since you're sitting here.
Well, okay.
Just tilt down, I think.
Tilting down. There he is.
There's the decorator crab. Scott, oh, and there's a tube in the background too. Scott France was, possibly a serpulid polychaete. We've seen quite a few of those.
Seems to only have 2 legs on each side that he's walking.
Scott,
on.
for the folks at home who may not have heard before, your explanation of this association and what the anemone does for the crab, would you mind repeating it?
Okay, they're clear.
Okay.
Okay, so Scott may not be on the phone line. If he jumps in, I'll be quiet. But Scott was telling us the other day when we were looking at this association that the anemone actually secretes chitin so that the crab, so normally with these like types of crabs, when they molt, they'll find a new place to live. But this association, the anemone is living on the crab has the anemone on its back, and what the anemone does is it secretes new carapace for the crab. So the crab has a bigger shell, and the anemone keeps its place to live.
To your starboard, there's some weird, looks like humps in the sand. Or, I'm sorry, port. Just port. See it on the Sirius cam?
Oh, yeah. Oh, look at that.
Some mounds. What are these?
Wow. They're unusual.
They are unusual.
See if
So,
there's a hole at the
yeah,
top
let's look. Yeah, let's take a look at them and see if they are mounds over top of burrows.
Doesn't
They
look
may be
like it.
biologically produced.
Strange.
Here comes my dust cloud following me. Holy cow, the partials in the face. Great, like that. Do you see anything that looks like a hole?
I don't. Yeah.
Nope,
I don't
but
know.
I see fecal matter on the
Let's
backside.
Look at the. Any of you at any of the shore-based science team see anything that looks like it might be a hole on the top of? What is
Maybe
that? On the
something
just to the
buried
left of your
inside.
laser. What's that?
I think it's a
Is that just a
depression.
pebble? It's right in the middle of your lasers now.
Yeah. I kind of had the texture of a
Yeah, it looks like it's just a pebble on the top. Yeah, Patty, we're just seeing these mounds, and we're wondering if they're biologically produced, if they're over top of some burrow.
It's very dusty all of a sudden. I turned the direction I said I couldn't turn.
No idea.
Nope, no idea.
It's like those furrows that we saw yesterday. They stumped us.
Can we just confirm that shoreside you're still hearing us? I'm getting more static on the conference line than I typically do.
Okay.
Yep, I'm writing in to ask.
So Nav, is that move? Did it just end?
Are you still hearing us, shoreside?
This is the move. Yes, it should have. It's just coming to a stop now.
You might be a little bit fainter, but we can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks,
See, how far
Chris.
are we from waypoint
Yeah,
2?
Tara
Pretty
can
close,
hear
right?
on the
Okay,
video
great.
feed, so
Okay.
sounds
More
good.
move
Yeah,
and
roll,
we'll
we're good.
actually, the ship will pass it, as you can see. From Sirius point of view, we're looking at About 48, 49 meters.
Two waypoint two.
Some rocks.
There's a puff. Upper right corner.
It's a fish on the sea floor. Similar to the last one with the teeth.
There's another Bathysaurus mollusk on the top right of our field of view right now.
Serious cam.
Ooh, something in the water just floated by.
Another lizard fish. Yay.
Oh, wow. Well, that is interesting. Oh, it's a little white fuzzy thing on the seafloor. Huh.
Anemonesque.
Yep, anemonesque.
Anemonesque.
There's a new one for
love
us.
that word.
It's like pick-upable.
A pick-upable anemonesque item. Thingy. A pick-upable
No, now thingy is
anemonesque
Roland's
thingy.
word. We can't steal it. Oh, we should go look at the fish.
Okay.
Can we look at the fish?
Yeah, fish is not moving.
The rocks still seem to be layered here in the upper left side of the screen. Our heading is 359 0.8. Now coming around a little bit to the northwest, but the dip on those layers that we saw just a moment ago is dipping toward the northwest, looks like.
It looks like you're coming
I'm going to go up and take a look at this
opposite angle you were coming in last time.
Bathysaurus, I think.
If that's what it is. Sure looks like it, doesn't it? Pale white fish like the last one we saw.
Maybe.
Oh, looks very similar.
Any chance of getting him face on?
No, I'll be pointed in a way that the current will just blow the sediment right on him. I can give you tail on.
Not descriptive enough. At least perpendicular.
So Jeff and Bruce, after you talk about this fish, Jeff, if you wanted to give us your comments about the tracks or the furrows or gouges that we saw on yesterday's dive, that would be great.
I didn't actually have the opportunity to see the video from yesterday's dive, and so I don't know precisely what those gouges on the seafloor looked like. So this is probably not the most detailed comments I can make. Bruce Mundy did email me, and he asked whether or not they might be made by a shark or perhaps a beaked whale, both of which are very good guesses. Except that the depth that those gouges were observed at is typically below the depths of either of those animals, which do make gouges on the seafloor. Beaked whales typically only dive to 2,000, maybe 2,500 meters to feed. Sperm whales will go a little bit deeper.
Hey, Jeff, sorry to interrupt you right now, but
don't extend nearly as deep as bony fishes. So big things like sleeper sharks, I think the deepest they've been observed is about 2,500 meters. And almost all large sharks are gone at 3,000 meters. You only get a few ratfish or chimeras and skates that live below 3,000 meters. And then all of your elasmobranchs or sharks and skates are gone at about 4,000 meters. So I don't know what could have made those.
Okay, we're getting
all suggestions.
Yeah, we're getting a good close look at this lizardfish now. You want to tell us anything more about that, especially for some of the folks at home who may have just joined in and didn't see the earlier image?
Sure. So we're looking at a deep sea lizardfish. It's Bathysaurus mollis, and this is an ambush predator. And they just sit very still on the seafloor, much like lizardfishes do in shallow water. It's a related family of lizardfishes that lives in shallow water. And you can see from that incredible toothy mouth that this guy is a predator. All of those teeth are meant for latching on to something and just holding on. So this guy will just sit there, and when it senses, it has functional eyes, but it probably mostly relies on, at this depth, at sensing vibrations in the water, things swimming past it. And when it feels that, it lunges up off of the seafloor and attempts to bite onto it. We've actually seen this at the Aloha Cabled Observatory. There's a camera that's positioned at 4,700 meters on the seafloor there, and we got lucky enough to see one of these guys take off and try to eat a shrimp about 3/4 of its own size. It didn't actually catch it in that case, but we found the tips of rat-tail fishes in the stomachs of these deep-sea lizardfish. So we know that they attack things bigger than they are and actually bite off pieces of them in some cases. But they do eat them whole as well.
So, Jeff, the skin on this fish is fairly translucent.
So
what
you can
organ
see
is
the
that
organ.
that we're looking
Yeah.
at? What's
I was
that
gonna
long
ask-
purplish organ that we're
I was
seeing?
going to ask exactly the same thing.
Yeah, the purplish organ, I'm not exactly sure what it is. You're looking at the gut cavity of the fish. The slightly more brown portion is probably the liver. I'm guessing that the purplish portion is the intestines, but anybody who's on right now is free to correct me.
And then, yes, please push ahead.
And Bruce Mundy is saying that the flaps on the snout are at the nostrils, and they help funnel scent into the nostrils, increasing the olfactory sensitivity in addition to the vibration sense that Jeff was telling us about. Really interesting.
I'll fly over it. The other stuff too.
Oh,
Some more
boy.
adaptation.
This is Bruce.
Yeah, hi, Bruce.
Thinking about
Here's another
what Jeff
animal.
just said.
Go ahead, Bruce.
Oh, hang on.
Okay, I'm thinking about what Jeff just said. A lot of these fishes have a dark lining to the gut cavity that will show through in the more transparent species or translucent species like that. And it's thought that the darkly pigmented lining, the peritoneum of the gut cavity, helps veil any bioluminescent prey that these animals might ingest, so that would make them less visible to other larger predators if there are any down there, if they eat bioluminescent prey. So the dark sort of purplish that we see around the gut could be the peritoneal lining of the gut cavity that would hide the bioluminescent prey.
Thanks, Bruce.
We're looking now at a beautiful sea star.
Lasers are off.
Priastera.
And I think I remember these are the species that tend to hold their arms up in the water column and catch things that float by.
Water ballet.
Keep going.
Okay, hold on.
Have to put our legs up too. That'd be tough.
They can hear you, Patty.
Whoops. Sorry. We're doing water ballet here.
We're doing sea star movements.
We need a few more arms
I'm afraid
in
to
here.
do something because Roland puts us on the video that everybody can see at home.
There's always that outtake reel.
Oh, the outtake reel on this cruise ought to be pretty good. I think we have to have a ceremonial burning of outtake reels after the cruise is over. Huh. Yeah.
Okay, now what?
Now
we went up a little step. We went up a little tiny step, a baby step, and now we're on another sediment. A mini outcrop.
In the mini outcrop, you could see layers of material dipping to the west. Our heading right now is about 22 degrees or so
Open sediment
from
layer
north, so slightly west of north.
Go ahead, Rich.
So what I've been doing is looking at the video after the dives and writing. I've written down the headings. The headings aren't recorded in the metadata, which is unfortunate. But when I do get it, you can see an
and
image.
how are you doing that?
I'm doing that with a protractor on the screen.
She really is.
I finally found
She
one.
honestly is. I came in one night. I said, "What are you doing?"
It's
No,
not-
I said, "What is that?" And she said, "It's a protractor." I said, "Well, no, I knew that." What are you doing with that?
Let me
And she
clarify
was-
that it's not carried in the metadata with the video.
Okay.
Although we do carry that and a whole slew of additional information in the logs that come from the ROV. So all of that information
great.
is recorded and it's actually sent to the archives along with the video. So
But can Patty get that information at night when she's working up her summary?
yes, you
Might-
can.
Might
Yes,
be.
you can.
So where do I look for that, Roland?
We can show you that afterwards.
Okay.
Okay, so far, we're not seeing any
things on that
indications of a mud volcano. Not
No,
yet.
not yet.
Tubes that
But
make
we
up
are
the rock.
seeing lots of really interesting
right here?
Yeah.
organisms,
We are.
some of which are adapted to live in mud, soft sediment. Others
Shallow.
adapted specifically for life in the deep sea.
And this little rock
What is
is
this?
covered with life from the deep sea. And we
I
also
think some
have a
of your
little
second-
things poking up in the mound right in front of the rock.
Polychaete or amphipod tubes.
Right.
Okay, what are these things on this rock?
I
might
don't
be
know.
Might be your second favorite organism. Tina Molitsova says she just saw a xenophyophore.
Yeah, I think that-
Xenophyophore.
Oh,
Sorry.
really?
Okay, roll. Hold it.
Okay, we're zooming in now to see if there are any barnacles on the rocks. Or maybe we're zooming on this little tube sticking itself out of the seafloor.
At the moment we are, but we're working on the rock.
Ah.
Oh, that is
It looks
the
like there's a little
xenophyophore.
bivalve there on the right. Did you see that?
A
I did
bivalve
not.
on the
I
right?
did not.
Where?
Oh, yeah.
it looks
Oh,
like
yeah,
it's
I see it. I
smiling
see
at you.
the
It's
shell.
off the screen.
Yeah,
to the
Yeah,
right. You
at
can
about
see the
2:30. Yep.
white inside very
Yep.
clearly when you
Yep.
pull back out.
Yep, for sure.
Okay.
Who was that? Was that Scott?
Up as we get closer.
That was Scott.
Hi, Scott. Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Indeed. And it's
Oh,
got
look
its
how
shell
nice.
open.
Oh, is that beautiful?
Pull out a little bit.
Wow. Now we saw a shell close. We've not seen one open like this on this cruise so far.
Pilot, you're drifting towards it.
And your camera's tilted up. So you got a little distance.
Can you zoom in more?
Yep.
Hold it.
Ooh, let's see if we can get a close view and get it in the screen. It's coming. Here we go. Wow.
So do you think there may be more of these that we're not able to see because they're just
You think they're buried?
buried just ever
bury
so
themselves?
slightly below the surface of the
be.
sediment? I don't know.
I don't know either. Oh, this is a nice image. It's got a lot of sediment on the top of the shell, and there doesn't appear to be much current down here. There aren't any really well-developed ripples or anything, so maybe it did bury itself.
Yeah,
and
what
then
we're
come
seeing
back
there
up.
is its mantle.
Right.
It's called a mantle, and it's inflated here. I don't know
Right.
what that's indicative of.
Maxim. Okay, video's
Okay.
clear.
Pull wide.
Nice. Very nice.
Beautiful image.
I don't know if I touch down close, but
Just a little bit. You just
I don't think we can spare it. Oh yeah, I did. I nudged the dirt bit. Yeah. I keep hanging out underneath Sirius. I would push it.
there's a potential hollow
Yep, we got to move because
Flies
Sirius is a
or
little in
fecal
front of
matter.
us.
citrus string.
Oh yeah. Snap it.
With fecal matter
Pile of stuff.
stuff. I like that.
Pile o' stuff.
Jeff gave a really good explanation
Of
of the
stuff?
position. No. Yes, of the position of the ship and the Sirius and deep discovery
Good.
and how we have to
Yep.
plan when we're moving, how we're
Dance
moving, and how
along.
long it takes to translate those moves.
Great.
5,000 meters of
Oh, here we
tether
go.
cable.
There's another one of these little one-cell
That's how we're doing for
doohickeys.
another move.
Xena 5-4.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yes.
It's a
That means,
doohickey.
that means a
80
bearer
on
of
camera right
foreign
now.
bodies. Like
Okay.
particles.
Oh, yeah,
Not
yeah.
bodies.
Xeno
like, not
is foreign,
people bodies.
like xenolith, which is
Like
a rock that's enclosed in a magma as it rips that rock off the wall of the throat of a
Okay,
volcano.
There you go. I'll come in on it.
Oh, what is this guy? And he's moving.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
now
this
maybe
is
just hold on
He's
one
moving.
second.
This actually looks like
It's
it might
moving.
be a small shore. It sure is a
It's
small,
tiny little
sponge.
sponge with a bunch of
Yep.
critters sitting on it. 2 on its stalk and 1 on its little head. Golly, this is another one of those critters with a brood pouch. Mysid?
Yep.
Hey, I remembered something.
So this, I don't know if it's just the angle. I don't think so. It just looks like it's shorter than
It does look
the
shorter.
stalk looks like it's shorter.
Yep. And does it have amphipods on its stalk? Those 2 little white
It might.
blobs? Do those look like amphipods to you?
Well, that looks like
Well,
the
that's
mysid
the
that we're
mysid,
seeing,
yeah, but
yeah.
underneath the sponge on the stalk, there are
Okay.
2
Yeah, I
other
know.
animals.
Yeah.
Can't see them though.
Can't
Gotta
see
move.
'em.
Tilting up. Stop.
Looks like a mysid again.
Yeah, the
Awesome
mysid.
shrimp.
Yeah, it sure
We got
does.
that.
Yeah. Did you see any amphipods on the stalk?
Down.
We can't see it from this
I'm
angle,
off
so of
camera,
course you
see
won't be
if
able
we're
to
right.
either.
Well, Scott says the eyes look like an isopod. And then he goes, but, ... Can't get a good look. Certainly a mysid on top.
All right, roll. Pull zoom there.
Alright, tilting up. And we just had a
Just lost the
manip
manip
cam.
cam.
It's back.
Oh dear.
Tilt down.
Tilting down.
Getting a really nice view of the what are called oostegites. Those are the plates that are held underneath the thorax and form the brood chamber. So when this would be a female, so when this female releases her
Slight tilt up.
her eggs, they're fertilized, they become embryos, and they're held there. And you can see that really nice, that sort of pinky orange swelling underneath, and that would be below all those legs. I'm not sure about what the dark purple is on the back, the dorsal side.
And what's the
Okay.
structure called again?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What is that structure called? The pinkish structure? I didn't catch it the first time.
iPod, so it does look like I'm done moving.
Oostegite.
And I
Got
have
it.
the 80 on my
OO
camera.
for egg,
So
and
kind of move
stegite
ahead.
is a
We'll
plate,
probably get another move in.
a plate-like
Let's see
extension
about that.
from the medial surface of the
Are you
legs.
still
Cool.
happy to go due north? The actual dive end is about 345 degrees.
Let's see what it looks like.
We can certainly wait at least one more
Floater
move.
coming at you. Top of the screen.
Oh, sorry, I'll give you your camera back. There you go.
Go ahead, Roy.
Watch lead video.
Go ahead, watch Lee.
Copy that.
I'll look into it. Clear that. I'm not going to be able to image it any better. Okay. Sound in the background. We got a mucus pouch.
So 345 was the discussion.
That would put us directly to the dive end target. That might not be a hard target, though. You can talk with wash leads.
Well, we are approaching
See
the
if they-
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the contour, or in other words, the
Go ahead.
depth
Straightforward.
that encircles the
I'm gonna,
top of
turn a little port
this portion
pilot to
of this seamount.
Bridge,
And so far, I
Settle
have
that
seen
up.
nothing that suggests to me that it might be one of these active mud volcanoes, but rather
Bridge.
I've
Could we have another
seen
move, please?
rocks that are
Range, 40
oriented
meters,
parallel to one another,
bearing
outcropping
3, 4,
or
5,
appearing above the
speed
sediment
0.2
surface
knots.
and dipping a little bit toward the trench. So this may be just a huge fault
Copy, Bridge.
block
Thank you.
that is separated from the inner part of the Mariana Forearc crust by a large fault of some sort. I'll have to take a look after the dive again at the bathymetry and
Yeah,
see if we
maybe
can figure out some of
maybe
the
reinterpret the
regional
bathymetry.
scale structures.
Because when you first looked at this with the new imagery,
Right.
there were certain features that
Thank
led
you,
you
Rich.
to believe that
Exactly.
this was a mud volcano. And why is it important to study the mud volcanoes?
Oh, the thing that we're most interested in trying to figure out is what the temperatures and pressures and compositional characteristics of the zone of contact between the subducting or the subducting Pacific plate or the tectonic plate that is diving down beneath the Mariana plate contact region. The area between the trench and the active volcanic arcs is what we refer to as the fore
like
arc.
sponges
In other
on
words, in
sponges?
front of the arc, in front of the volcanic arc.
When they begin.
So we're trying to figure out what reactions take place within the downgoing Pacific plate as it plunges down into the deeper parts of the Earth. And the mud volcanoes are erupting fluids that give us some information about that, as well as erupting some rocks that tell us about temperature and pressure conditions where those rocks have been metamorphosed or changed by reactions as the plate descends. And now we've found another sponge, Shirley.
These have been pretty common. We've seen a lot of these stalked glass sponges. Many of them have the mysids,
Pull out and go to the other one.
root pouches, also with amphipods.
on the stalks.
We
Yep.
saw at least one with a relicanthus anemone.
Yep.
I was mentioning we collected one of those yesterday, and I was expecting that it was going to be really big because we measured one of them in the water that
Like
had
5 or 6 feet.
The anemone,
Oh, wow.
tentacles were about 2 meters long, and we got it up on the surface. The anemone body itself was, I would say, maybe a centimeter
You're
and a half
kidding.
in diameter.
Really?
Tiny, yeah.
Wow.
And the tentacles, not surprisingly, they all were kind of dropping off and really mucus, really sticky, yeah. So.
Well, that's good for the anemone.
But I did, when we were preserving it, I did actually get formalin in its gastrovascular cavity. I could tell because when I pipetted or injected it in, it just went, it relaxed.
Okay.
Definitely relaxed.
Okay.
Some of those large creatures on the stem.
So we're at a depth of 4,810 meters right now. And the ROV is essentially on the seafloor. It's about 0.2 meters off the seafloor
goes in
as the
digital.
pilot sets up to image this sponge. There is a thing called the carbonate compensation depth in the oceans, and in the Pacific region it's
Oh, yeah,
about,
tell us about that.
it's about 4,000 meters. And the reason I mention it is because the dive today is deeper than the one yesterday, where we saw a lot of little white specks on the seafloor that looked like the shells of many of these one-celled organisms that are pelagic, floating around in the water, called foraminifera. We don't see those